Funny little production note about last week's episode of Weekly Takes. It was the first one I had recorded in, I believe, at least a year, and I forgot to put a backing musical track. That's kind of like a thing I like to have, just to kind of have something running along in the background, and it was not there. That should be here this time. Anyways, some really cool stuff this week, actually. We're going to start with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. As has been noted on this channel before, I am a huge Tom Cruise fan, particularly the Mission Impossible films. It is my favorite movie series of all time. I thought this trailer was going to debut in front of The Gladiator 2, which in itself looks pretty cool. I might see it at some point. I'm not sure if I'll go see it in theater, just because of time and things like that. But that probably would have got me to go see it, just to see the trailer on the big screen. But earlier this week, I'm assuming last weekend, one of the movies that came out, which honestly I don't know what that would be. I haven't really kept track very well, honestly. But the Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning trailer debuted, and it is amazing. I love this series. I have episodes of Weekly Takes that talk about this in the past. But I think it is the best overall movie series of all time. Now remember, outside of like kind of silly comical romps and stuff like that from way back in the the 50s and 60s, etc., we didn't really have serious like movie series like where you had a continuous line of stories with the same cast and characters in a franchise until probably the 80s is when that really started to kick off. You had things like Star Wars and Star Trek and Alien and Die Hard, lots of the Predator, lots of these things. That was kind of like the age where all the big series began to kick off, and then it became the big trend in Hollywood. Mission Impossible, of course, the first film released in 1996, and now we've got a whole bunch of films. This will be the 8th. And the quality level, I've never seen this maintained so well in any movie series in this whole era where that's a thing. It's like every single time they make a new one, they do find a way to outdo themselves, not just in the stunt and the effects and the action, but in just telling the stories better and having the action be better carried by the story. I love it. They're kind of stupid, but I love the Fast and Furious series. The last few in particular, let's say the last 5, have really gone overboard in a lot of ways, but it's fun to have that IDGAF. I just don't care. We're going to do crazy stuff and it's going to be fun. That's not to say that those are quality films. They just are fun, right? And there's a whole nostalgia thing for like kind of the whole series, the length of time it's lasted and all that. With Mission Impossible, it's different. It feels like they have definitely found a way to improve upon each release. And not only that, but until McQuarrie took over the series as director, there was not like foreshadowing. There was not like an ongoing thread of a story happening. It was the cast coming back. It was the next adventure, etc. And of course, you have that history, but this was not intended to be like a serialized thing. When McQuarrie came on, somehow between him and Cruise and the other writers involved, they managed to go back and tie a new thread into everything that already previously existed, all the way back to the original Mission Impossible film, bringing characters forward, bringing lineages forward, and connecting the dots between things that there originally was not supposed to be any dots to connect on. So I really think that they've done things that have never been done before in a movie series, and it's just so much fun. Check out the trailer for The Final Reckoning. It's coming out this coming summer. And honestly, there was something I called with a lot of friends, and I guess I didn't post it anywhere, and I've also like restarted my Twitter account since then anyways. But I 100% said after the Dead Reckoning, if they find a way to tie the rabbit's foot, which was a red herring from Mission Impossible 3, into this series again, I will freak out, because that'll kind of tell me something about what they're doing, right? Sure enough, in the trailer for The Final Reckoning, there is a brief shot of Tom Cruise, a younger Tom Cruise, in an outfit from Mission Impossible 3, reaching toward the screen and grabbing a biohazard or something along those lines, like a biohazard container. That is the rabbit's foot container that was like the red herring. It's basically an object that you never know what it is, and that's not important. It's just something to move the plot forward. That was the thing in Mission Impossible 3. We never found out what it is or what purpose it served. There was probably not one made. So, and not only that, but the shot looks like either a newly created shot or something that was unused footage that has now been like repurposed for this movie, because it was a shot that was not in the original film. So really looking forward to all that. It's Mission Impossible season again, and this is my favorite thing when it comes to movies. So this coming summer is going to be pretty awesome just for that. I want to briefly talk about, and sports is not something that was really big on this channel before. It probably still won't be, but it is something that matters to me and that I enjoy, so I will talk about it at times. And with this one, we're going to go with sports analysts. And I feel like there's this huge divide, pretty much the same as critics with movies and video games, etc., and the people who actually pay or contribute in some way through their patronage to actually watch and enjoy or play or whatever. And yes, when you are creating something like movies and video games and music, when you're the person creating something, sure, you need to create it for yourself in a sense, but you also need to be aware that for you to continue doing that, your bills need to be paid, and that's by the people who pay to watch or pay to listen or pay to play your product. And when it comes to the critics or the people who analyze things, they are not those people. They know very little about that world. Sports analysts, in this case, they are paid to enjoy sports. They get to go to games, or they get to sit and analyze games. They get to sit in a studio. They have interviews with top players and with coaches, and they get to sit around and powwow with other sports analysts and such. And basically, they are part of the product. They are paid to promote this product in a sense. So when they give a take about something, I kind of don't care 99% of the time. There are a few people, for instance, let's just say Kurt Warner, who actually do value their input. Kurt Warner and now Tom Brady. Because these are guys that were like legitimate players in the league, that are some of the best to ever play. They actually accomplished something, and what they are saying makes sense when it comes to the way they break down game footage, the way they commentate on the league. If you ask 8 or 9 out of 10 football fans will tell you that the current product that you see on the field today, that you're watching in football games, is vastly inferior to what we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Essentially, the further you go back, other than there was this peak era that could probably go from the late 90s, the last few years in the 90s, into like the early 2000s, maybe up until like 2010. There was a great peak era there of execution, quarterback play, defensive play. That's the other thing too. People want to say, oh, well, the defenses are better now, that's why offensive production, quarterback play. No. Some of the best defenses of all time were playing against those quarterbacks. The Tom Brady's, Peyton Manning's, Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning, Donovan McNabb, Kurt Warner, Drew Brees. Like the lists go on and on and on. So the game you have now, though, it's not just the star players are not throwing 50 touchdowns a season. When you watch these guys, they don't know how to tackle, or they are being forced not to tackle correctly. The execution, the fundamentals, the little physical things that you're supposed to be doing on the field, they don't do like they used to. They're not taught these things. They're not coached them. And they're getting paid exorbitant amounts of money to not perform the way their predecessors did. And not to put their bodies on the line the way their predecessors did. And then the officiating is like every single week you're just watching and going, this is terrible. This is incredibly bad officiating for a game that makes this much money and has this much exposure. So the vast majority of football fans that have watched this game for any length of time that's not like 3 years will say, yeah, this game is just not as good as it once was. Do you still enjoy it? Yes. Do you still have favorite players, favorite teams? Are there still extraordinary things that happen on the field? Yeah, there's some incredible physical talent. There's incredible football talent out there. But the way it is coached, the way it is executed, the effort level for what is being made when it comes to money and exposure, and then the officiating, the way the league runs the game, it's all just so bad compared to what once was. Meanwhile, NFL analysts and like the 2 to 3 out of 10 people that follow them and basically just play fantasy football and watch box scores will tell you it's the best thing they've ever seen because they're paid to. Last but not least, probably the most important thing on here, Linkin Park From Zero released on Friday, and not only is it just an amazing album from cover to cover, it's been extremely successful so far. The statistics on Friday were like 10 million streams, like right out the gate, and I think that was on one service. I may be wrong, it was iTunes or Spotify, one of the two. But it had 10 million streams of the album, and like 10 tracks from the album were in the top listened songs for that day. The numbers are crazy. Not only that, but Thursday they announced their massive world tour. There's something like 59 dates in this world tour for 2025. It's jam-packed. It's all over the place, including Rockville. Welcome to Rockville in Daytona, Florida. So I will be attending that. I did pre-purchase my ticket for that show for that one day to go see Linkin Park. Some of my coworkers were like, you didn't get a multi-day pass. I'm like, look, I only care about this. It's Linkin Park. That's what I'm going for. There's some other great bands on the stage that day too, for the main stage that they're at. I believe there's like POD, Taking Back Sunday, Incubus, and one or two other really good ones. Those are some great bands right there. Just them alone is great. But I would have paid the money just to see Linkin Park. So no, I didn't care about the rest of it. And honestly, I've never been to a rock festival of this scale, so I'm going to go try it out. Get my one day, go see Linkin Park and the other bands and stuff, enjoy the whole thing, and then maybe, some after stuff, but then go, oh, okay, that was awesome. Now I want to go do more shows and maybe lengthier festivals and things in the future. But just to be able to go to North America's biggest rock festival to see Linkin Park 25 years after this band came out, it to me is going to be amazing. I've never seen them live, and I don't think I need to tell you, if you follow me on Twitter, Instagram, or here on YouTube, how big a deal Linkin Park is to me. Like there is Linkin Park. I'm holding my hand like up in the air above my head somewhere. There is Linkin Park, and then like all other music somewhere below that. There's plenty of other bands and songs and albums that I absolutely love and you'll really, really enjoy. But there's also just no comparison between those two things. So that's going to be amazing. But From Zero, my gosh, it's a great album. Every Linkin Park album is in some way an evolution from what was before. It's never the same. It's never a follow-up. It's never, oh, they've changed, blah, blah. No, it's just Linkin Park. This is what they do. And now we've got Emily Armstrong, and we have Colin on the drums. But otherwise, it's Mike, it's Brad, it's Joe, it's Dave. These are the guys of Linkin Park. We are missing Rob, unfortunately, because he decided to step away. We've covered this before. And then, of course, there's Chester. For me, the way I've always seen it, Chester's gone. Like, he passed away. That can't be held against anybody. And to me, with Mike Shinoda being the lead vocalist of the band, Emily is not a replacement or a changing me. She's an addition. Because Mike could have carried the band himself. She's an addition to add to that. And boy, is it good. It's so good. There are some really great songs that, like I said, listen to the album from front to back at least a couple times before you start listening to individual songs, because I feel like Linkin Park has always been designed to listen to as an album. But my favorite track is definitely Two-Faced. After hearing everything a whole bunch of times, Two-Faced is like so perfectly Linkin Park. But the track that comes right before on the album, which kind of works out perfectly, is called Overflow. And like with everything, it sounds like Linkin Park, but it's also something just different. And it gives me vibes of like, not necessarily some of the like late 90s industrial, but there's a song called Six Underground by Sneaker Pimps, or I think that's what they're called. I love them, but I think that it kind of has a little bit of that vibe, but it's Linkin Park. And it's a very emotionally touching song. The lyrics are very well put together, and then the visualizer itself is really good. So just overall, amazing album. From Zero is such a great return to form for Linkin Park, and I can't wait to see them live finally 25 years into this whole thing.